All right, asparagus just makes me think spring, and I am so ready for it. Just got back from a week of vacation, and it is not easy to get back in the saddle. So I know it's Anne's given me the get out the violin, but it's just not. It was such a lovely vacation. We were in Jamaica for a week, and when you come back, it's like, okay, all right, I want to stick with the workout and eating healthy. So asparagus and nice spring foods, I think, is a way to do that. So I'm just going to cut the asparagus into pieces, and I want to keep it nice, bright green. Asparagus is one of my favorite vegetables, but it can be very pricey off season, and it also can not look that great. Well, right now it's very reasonable at the grocery store, and it looks fantastic. I like to get the little bit thicker asparagus rather than the really, really thin stuff. So I'm just dropping that in some boiling water, and this is my secret to keeping it nice and bright green. A little bit of salt in there, and I'm just going to boil that for a minute or two, and then I'm going to plunge it into some ice water, and that'll keep it nice and bright green in my frittata. Okay, so you want to get a decent size non-stick skillet, and we're going to start with just a tablespoon or two of butter. We're going to keep this pretty light. You could also use olive oil. So I'm going to, because it's a non-stick, you don't have to use a lot of it. So actually, I think I'm going to try and cut back on this, and might even get away with just doing half a tablespoon or so. We'll save Anne's excited about that. Anne's one of those people, she's been eating so good and healthy. All right, we have the biggest clove of garlic I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Anne was all excited about that this morning. So I think the recipe calls for 1 to 2 cloves of garlic, but this is plenty. It's huge. So I'm just going to give that a rough chop, and I don't use a garlic press or anything like that. I say the back of my knife. Anne says it's the side of your knife, whatever you want to call it. I just use my knife and give it a rough chop. I actually love, especially when it's kind of feeling spring, to do a nice light dinner. I came back from Jamaica and I vowed to, eat more salads, eat a little more healthy. You eat so healthy there with all the fresh salads and seafood and things like that. So this does make a really nice light dinner with a salad. So I'm getting the garlic going. And when you use raw garlic, you got to keep it moving. And now I'm going to add, for some color, and also it's really good for you, some diced red pepper. This is really going to look nice with our asparagus. Okay, our asparagus is done. I want to keep it crisp tender, so I'm going to drain it and then get it into some, just going to let it sit in some ice water. And that's going to kind of freeze the color there and keep that nice and bright green. Okay, let's get back to the egg part of this. I'm going to pull this off the heat because I don't want that garlic to burn, but I wanted to get it sauteing a little bit with the red pepper. Now, this recipe calls for 6 eggs. And by the way, if you have any wonderful spring recipes, salads, spring casserole dishes, side dishes, great Easter recipes, we love hearing from you. We really do enjoy getting your recipes, and who knows, we may invite you to come on the show and cook with us. So email them to us. And I love getting your tips too. All right. A little bit of salt and pepper, and then a little bit of Lamers. We love our Lamers milk, or you can do heavy cream, but we're going to keep this a little bit lighter. So 6 eggs, I do about 1/4 cup of milk. Now I'm going to get that into our skillet. There's really a trick to cooking eggs. In fact, when a chef is trying out for, a fancy job, a lot of times they'll have them make an omelet because it's one of the trickiest things to get right. So this frittata is a little bit more forgiving because you actually like it to get a little bit of color. So you notice I'm not scrambling it. I'm just kind of coming around the edges with a spatula. You want it to set up, but you don't need to flip the frittata. That's what's nice about it. All right, let's get back to our asparagus. And I just want to show you how nice, just picking a couple of the ice cubes out, how nice and bright green it now is. So I'm going to take that asparagus. See how nice and bright green that is? And it's still got a little bit of a, crunch to it, but it is cooked. I'm not a big fan of mushy vegetables anymore. Well, I don't think I ever was, actually. Now we are going to do a little bit of cheese. And the cheese I'm using is goat cheese. Feta cheese would also work. Certain cheeses like blue cheese, Parmesan, goat cheese, feta cheeses are cheeses that a little dab will do you. You don't need a whole ton of it. And that's a nice way to have your cheese, but also, keep healthy. There's no way I could give up cheese. That's just not going to happen. So, to crumble a little bit of feta cheese or a little bit of blue cheese or Parmesan or goat cheese over a salad is a great way to kind of get your cheese fix without feeling too guilty. So in this case, you can see how our frittata is starting to kind of set up around the edges. And we're going to finish it in the oven. So I'm going to get it off the heat, and I'm just going to take a teaspoon and just kind of dollop the cheese, this goat cheese, which I know is an acquired taste, but I happen to love it. I remember the first time I tried it, I was like, oh my gosh, just not a big fan of this, just like the first time I tried blue cheese. But let me tell you, now I can't get enough of it. It's creamy and wonderful. If you don't like it, like I say, a little bit of crumbled feta cheese, Parmesan. Who doesn't like Parmesan would work as well. So you can just kind of dollop this around. We'll do one in the middle. And now I'm going to pop this in the oven. Now if you don't have, we actually have a skillet that can go right in the oven, no problem. Love this. But if you don't have a skillet that has a handle like this, a stainless handle, wrap the handle in aluminum foil, tin foil, whatever, and it'll be oven proof. We're just going to put it in there to finish it off. I've got my oven preheated to about 420 degrees. About 5-10 minutes this is going to be done. It's going to puff up, and I'll finish it off with some fresh herbs. So that is the classic way to make a frittata, easiest dish to make. And really, if you're in a quick fix for dinner, you've got a little bit of this, a little bit of that in your fridge that needs using, from broccoli to cauliflower, a little bit of bacon, ham, whatever you got in the fridge. It's a great way to throw it together in a frittata and make a brand new meal out of it. So that's the basics on how to make it. We're going to finish it up in just a little bit. Coming up, a basic meatloaf recipe, basic homemade mac and cheese recipe, homemade chicken stock, and a perfect cheesecake. So stick around. We are jam-packed today, all about the basics. More to come.